Stratton, and this is Nicole Walker. We are on-site agents with True Homes.
Hey everybody, it's Nicole with True Homes, and as you know, me and Ariel are doing a video series all about the different steps of the process with building with True Homes, and we have some of our awesome team members who are helping us out with these videos. So today we have Walker. Say your last name for me.
Lozaw.
And he is our foundation manager. So he's going to tell us about pre-foundation work and foundations. This is a question actually a lot of clients have about the home building process. And so before we get started, I would like Walker to introduce himself and talk about anything as far as his experience with True Homes.
Hi everybody, like she said, I'm Walker. I'm the foundation manager here at True Homes. Been here almost 2 years now. I'm a Raleigh resident, Raleigh native, been here my whole life, and I love this job. I love working outside, love working with different people. So happy to share with you all today.
And he's so very patient when we call him and ask him a bunch of questions. So thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so let's get started. We have a list of questions as always, and I'm going to go through them. I might ad-lib a little bit, but we'll get through it. So can you give us an overview of the pre-foundation work that takes place before starting a new construction project? So we're going to pivot a little bit here, guys, because a little bit of what he knows about is before we actually start construction. So we're going to talk about that a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, so I work a little bit with our land team as well. Our land team does a fantastic job setting me up for success in my role. And their job is basically to get you water, power, gas if necessary, and sewer, whether it be septic or a community set sewer. So when I take over a lot, all of that is in place on a community level, and it is then my job to tie in your specific lot to what the land development team has done on a community scale. So my job really starts at rough staking. The first thing I do is I put the corner of your house out. That allows us to check for drainage and how to get water off of your lot. I'm looking to avoid your back porch, I'm looking to avoid the side of your houses, and give you the most usable yard that you can have. I'm trying to maximize your square footage in your yard that is flat, but also at the same time make sure that the water is getting off your lot in a quick fashion. So the second thing that I do in a slab neighborhood or a crawl space neighborhood is I scrape the lot. That's where I have a landscaper come out and he does the grading on your lot. There's different sets of requirements for what he needs to do based on whether it is a crawl space or a mono slab. For the mono slab, each of his corners on your 4 corner stakes that we just talked about need to be within 2 inches of each other. That allows me to pour you the flattest slab that I can and deliver a product where when you step outside your door, you're not walking down a hill. So I have my landscaper come and do that. On a crawl space lot, it's a little bit different. I'm able to build block on inclines, declines, and that different sorts of setups of topography for a lot, so it's not as strict in terms of that 2 inches at the corner. But I do like to provide the flattest space that the land allows me to. And from there, we go into an accurate stake. An accurate stake is these little pink pins that my surveyor comes and puts in the ground, and that tells my crawl space crew where we need to dig our footings for putting concrete in the ground to support our block, or for a slab where my plumber needs to come in and install his plumbing. And those are the first steps.
About those ones.
Yeah.
I was doing a video with an agent who's really big in social media, who shall not be named and might be later in this video series. Anyways, he did a fantastic job of walking people through very quickly, visually, the different steps in one of our neighborhoods. And I saw him down the street waving pink flags in the air, and I was like, no! But it turned out they were just extras, so he went over to the side. Oh, I was about to die because I know how much work goes into getting those where they need to be.
Restaking is certainly a thing. We have a neighborhood where there's some children that live behind, and I've restaked a couple times on their account. So
yeah, well, that's new construction stuff happens, but we know how to fix it. So you went over the next one, which is what are the key steps involved in preparing the site for the foundation. So how are you making sure that you've got proper site excavation and grading to achieve that level of foundation?
So in terms of excavation, up front, our land team does a great job. They do what's called a geotech inspection, where they take a core of each lot, and I'm not quite sure how deep that core goes, but I think it's at least 10 feet down into the ground, and they pull a soil test on the compaction of each level of the soil down to at least 10 feet. So I come in with the understanding that I am okay to add dirt or excavate dirt to a certain degree based on the composite makeup of the ground. In terms of grading around the house, I think we talked about that a little bit at Rough Stake, but I have to ensure that there's fall away from the home. Nobody wants to buy a house in a bowl.
Yeah.
So the biggest thing for me is making sure that water drains away from the house and then to a common area to where it needs to go. So we do this in the form of swales. I cut as little as possible to ensure that you have a good flat yard, but there are requirements that I have to meet in terms of the depth of the swale and the fall away from your home to provide that water somewhere to go.
Very cool. Okay, can you explain what footings are, right? For those of you who don't know, it is a different part of the process, slab versus crawl space. So if you can explain what footings are, and then also the process of installing them and how they can contribute to the stability of a home when you're working with a crawl space.
Absolutely. So I actually do footings on both crawl spaces and
Oh, do you really?
Two very different things. But
Okay,
yes.
yeah.
So we'll start with the crawl
I'm
space.
learning all kinds of stuff.
We'll
Yeah,
start with
alright.
the crawl space today. The first thing I do is I dig my footings.
Okay.
The footing provides a support for the block to be built on top of. So I have to stay in the middle third of the block.
Okay.
So my block is 8 inches in thickness, and I have to have the same width on the inside and the outside of your footing when I put the block on.
Right.
After I pour the footing, I have an accurate stake done on top of the concrete, which tells my blocking crew exactly where to put the block so that it is in the middle and you have equal support on the inside and the outside.
I did not realize this was this specific. I love this.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So we also have footings on slabs.
Okay.
For the majority of slabs, you have a footing that runs along the entire exterior of the home. I pour 12 inches of concrete below grade, and most often you have at least 8 inches above grade. So I will have a total of 20 inches of concrete on the exterior of your home.
So this is great for people who are maybe people who have only ever purchased crawl spaces. They come from the north or the northeast where it's cold, so you kind of have to do crawl spaces and basements. We'll talk about that one, I think, in a second. Will be helpful. But it's great to know how stable that really is.
Yes.
They think that it's just what they can see sitting on top of.
No, it's not 4 inches of concrete just poured right on top of dirt. There's a lot that goes into it. And on top of the exterior footings, I have what's called lug footings. Lug footings are on the interior of your home, and we put those in places where you have a load-bearing wall or two load-bearing walls that come to a point.
Right.
So it's just an extra point of support in that slab, but those are also poured at 20 inches.
Nice, very cool. So explain to us a little bit about why somebody from a colder environment would be so used to crawl spaces and basements, and why they aren't actually necessary except for site-specific situations here in North Carolina.
So we have some great topography here in North Carolina, and on top of that we have some great soil.
Yeah.
So it makes it really easy for us to build slabs. Slabs they're not new, they've been around for a while. But certainly the engineering that goes around them has developed over time. So we are able to pour slabs here, and crawls. Yeah, I want to cut it here. I don't have a great answer for that one. You stumped me on that one. I was going so well.
No, it's okay. This will make the blooper reel.
I thought we were doing pretty well there for a second.
I think you paused really well. You said "and crawls," so I say we go back to that.
Okay.
Really, isn't it true that won't be part of the video unless it just makes sense to make it part of the video? But isn't it true that part of the reason we don't have crawls is because we don't have the same freeze temps that they do,
Potentially.
and we don't have to go so deep?
I don't know.
How
Potentially.
deep is your
12.
crawl space?
Crawl space? I think we pour 12 inches of concrete.
So it'd be 12 or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 12 or more in both cases. I think I pour the same amount of concrete. But on a crawl space, I have to dig down to a certain type of compaction, and I don't know that the compaction is the same as a slab, because oftentimes on crawl spaces I have to go a lot deeper.
So that could be what you say. Crawl spaces a lot of times just with site topography and everything, I have to go a lot deeper.
Yes.
And then I can join in and say I had heard that a lot of times it was a requirement to go a lot deeper up north, so it ended up being a basement or a crawl space. versus.
Yeah, I think like crawls honestly are mostly used in more difficult topography areas. Like that is the biggest reason for a crawl here in North Carolina. I live in North Hills. The neighborhood speaks for itself. It's full of hills, and almost everything has a basement or a crawl. And that is simply because to get that specific lot to where it would need to be to put a slab on top of it would require an insane amount of dirt to be imported or exported. And the more you mess with the ground, the tougher it is to get water to move where you need it to.
Yeah, we may or may not have experienced that in the past. Right. So no, I actually really like what you just said. So if there's a way to splice that in, that'd be great. But we could go back and talk about, and you could say and with crawls, and just say what you said about topography, and just maybe we can reference again, like we just don't have to here. So it's a cost saving endeavor a lot of times, I would think, right?
Correct.
Okay, we can say that.
Yeah.
So just say and crawls, just say typically.
And crawls typically provide us with a different tool to deal with a more difficult topography. So a lot of times here in North Carolina, we are set up with really good lots. And we have engineers and we have land development teams in place that are paying attention and can provide me a very flat lot that is suitable for a slab. So that crawl space really comes into play when we need to import or export a large amount of dirt. And when we do that, we mess with the water and how the entire neighborhood flows to that one lot if you import or export a lot of dirt to that lot. So we like to stay away from it when we can because we don't really need it. Down here in the south, we don't have the same freezing temperatures that they do up north. So you are provided with the same level of stability in either case.
Very cool. So basically, guys, it's going to make your house less expensive, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is a huge cost saving.
And so it saves builder money, but it's also going to save you money. That's why our homes in Huffington and Jackson Springs could be the same square footage as something close by that we were doing that is a totally different price point. Part of that is going to be the cost of that crawl space.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. So what materials, we've gone over this a little bit, but any other materials that are commonly used for foundation construction? And how do you decide which material to use for a particular project? So maybe talk a little bit about stem walls here.
So we have 3 different products. We've talked a lot about crawl spaces and we've talked a lot about slabs, but there's also stem walls. And all 3 have their pros and cons, but they're all 3 at different price points as well. So in a slab case, I use a compactable fill to an engineer's specifications on how much compaction I need to have underneath the concrete that I pour. And that can be anything from engineered dirt to small pea gravel to crush and run. There's a bunch of different types of rock. So I can talk about rock all day long. We use a different type of concrete in the winter versus the summer. We use a different type of concrete for your slab versus your driveway. In terms of other materials, though, in crawl spaces and in stem walls, you use the same type of block. In a stem wall case, you are actually building a slab on top of a crawl space. So what you do is you build your crawl space just like you normally would, and then you fill it with gravel, and you pour a slab on top rather than building a wooden floor system.
Right.
That was really big in 2020 because the cost of lumber went up.
Right.
So a lot of people moved to that stem wall because concrete and gravel is a whole lot cheaper than wood, or was in 2020. So each one offers a different price point and a different product.
Right, and a stem wall might be a way to do something that needs to be the depth of a crawl space without hitting the cost of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Let's move on to the next question. We can cut right here because I'm having to log right back into my computer. Okay. Alrighty. We talked about that one. Do you want to talk about sloped lots, or you think you've kind of hit that already?
I think we already hit that.
Okay. All right. We talked about the structurally sound part, but let's talk about the building codes and regulations.
Cool.
Okay, so what measures do you take to ensure the foundation is meeting all the building codes and regulations?
So I go through a litany of inspections from start to finish, not only with towns and municipalities, but also with engineers, surveyors. So there's a lot of eyes on our lots at all times. The first thing I do in a crawl space is I actually have to look for the compaction of the dirt below which we pour the concrete. So I have an engineer come out and he probes in your footing every so often, and he punches all the numbers in and comes up with a compaction rating. And I have to pass a certain compaction rating, or I have to dig deeper to get to the threshold. So that's the first inspection in a crawl space case. After that, I'm able to pour my footings, and then I start building my block on top of that. So after the block is built, before I'm allowed to fill in the inside of the crawl space, backfill any of the outside, rough grade anything, I have to have a city inspector come out, and he has to sign off on all of the block that has been built. There's certain requirements on how joints in the block can come together. There's certain requirements on height and how much dirt or gravel needs to be behind them. So there's a lot that goes into it at that point. And then after that, I'm able to, if I pass on the first try, I'm able to backfill and get that foundation waterproofed. So waterproofing is huge in all cases, but in crawl spaces certainly. So my next inspection would be the floor system, and that would really get you to the point where a mono slab starts from.
Right.
When it's completed. You're able to go vertical from that floor system. So there's 3 inspections on a crawl space before I can even get to framing the house.
Right.
In a mono slab, it's a little bit different. So the first inspection I have would be the plumbing inspection, because before you pour your concrete on a mono slab, you install all the plumbing under the house. You install lines for electrical wires to be run through, and your water and sewer line that run from your house to the services at the street. So all 3 of those things are inspected before I can even start prepping the lot for concrete. Usually that is when I bring in my compactable fill, my crushed stone, that sort of thing. So after I pass my plumbing, my electrical, and my water and sewer lines, I'm able to go for a mono slab inspection. And that inspector comes out and he's looking to make sure my footings are the right width, they're the right depth, I have rebar in the right locations. Everything is to standard per the municipality before I even go to pour concrete. Now on top of that inspector, on the same day, I have to have an engineer come out and do the same compaction test that we do on a crawl space. Same test. So those are the inspections that I go through before I'm allowed to pour 1 drop of concrete in a mono slab neighborhood.
Yeah. Well, that's what I love for people to hear about, is that not only do we can say all day that we have the quality standards that we do, which we do, but I think it really backs it up. Like, yes, there are so many municipality inspections, so many engineers, you know, looking at all of this. That's fantastic. And so, let's move on to, how do you coordinate with other teams or contractors during the pre-foundation phase to ensure a smooth workflow and timely completion?
So we have a fantastic system here at True Homes. It's called FMS, and all of my schedules are run through that system. All of our trades every single day are given a notification with what they have for the next 10 days. On top of that, working with the same people has allowed me to build some really important relationships. So every single one of those updates that they get from our system is paired with a call or a text.
Right.
So I am on the phone all day long, every single day, scheduling things for the next 2, 3, 4 days out, making sure that we run efficiently. On top of that, when they complete their work, I do a quality check, and there's almost always communication after that as well.
Perfect. All right. So are there any innovations or advancement in foundation construction that you find particularly interesting or beneficial to your work?
I want to skip this one.
Okay, we'll skip that one.
Because I don't, the answers for that, I don't
You're
think.
like, no, we're still doing the same kind of foundations.
No, we aren't. We're doing a lot of things, but I don't think that I can frame them in an aspect that buyers would appreciate hearing.
Yeah. No, that's just a nerd question, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me take my sip. My loud ice chew.
Can we talk about 12? You
That's
would
where I was
know
going
that
next.
better than me.
Yeah, I guess so. The biggest myth is going to be slab versus crawl, right? Either which way.
Right.
So I'll frame that up. We kind of talked about it, but we'll talk about pros and cons of slabs versus
Right.
crawl spaces. And you can be honest.
Yeah.
Just don't say that anything that will make them think that our
Correct.
foundations are good.
That's why
What I usually say is each has its pros and cons. Slab is obviously gonna be like great for people, and I can talk about this a little bit too, who need that more zero entry, right? It's also really good for cost effectiveness.
Right.
Crawl space is great for topography, right? And because you can access everything underneath, right? But I also talk about how these days with technology and stuff, GPR and all that, you can get to a lot of that in your slab without having to bust everything open. Also,
you can at least look at it.
Yeah, and also reminding people that just because your entry point is under the foundation doesn't mean that literally all your plumbing is in the foundation. I know that seems weird, but so I might take a little bit more of this one, but
yeah.
And then obviously a con of the crawl space is the moisture. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay. All right. So what are some? I know some of the common. I'm gonna start over because I hit my mic.
That's good.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the common misconceptions and myths when it comes to foundations, right? So a lot of times I get asked as a salesperson about the difference between a slab and a crawl space. Those are the two that most people are familiar with, and the pros and cons of each. So some of the sales front pros that I have seen, like with a slab, is that zero entry for people.
Absolutely.
It's the closest you're going to get to that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it allows us to stay away from stairs on the entry point for the most point.
Yeah. So there's that, and then for the crawl space, obviously access to stuff underneath. Right. But could you tell us a little bit about pros and cons of slabs and crawl spaces, and why some of that stuff might be a misconception?
Yeah, I'll start right where you left off. Yes, crawl spaces are fantastic because you can access your plumbing under the house. That does not mean you can access all of your plumbing under the house. A portion of it is put under your floor system, and you are able to access it from your crawl space. In the same breath, mono slabs and the technology that has come out lately, a lot of the times we are able to see
Just made me start with mono slabs. Hold on, give me a second.
Okay, you ready? Mono slabs with new technology, a lot of the times we are able to see what's going under the slab without tearing anything up first. So I know that's a common misconception out there, that the first thing that goes wrong, the immediate response is you need to bust up your slab to fix whatever's under it. It should be mentioned that with mono slabs, there is certainly a cost saving aspect. It is going to be the cheaper option of the two. Also with mono slabs, that they differ from crawls, and in crawls, the biggest thing I'm fighting is moisture. How to keep water out from under your house, and that is not an issue with the mono slab. Slabs are great to work with when you have the opportunity, but a crawl space is a great tool when you have slope or topography on a lot.
Perfect. Love it. Okay. How does the pre-foundation work impact the overall timeline and cost of the new construction project?
Timeline is big. So in our company, the biggest thing we're tracking is how fast can we get to framing? Can we stay on pace to framing? Because if we can stay on pace to framing, we can stay on pace from framing to drywall. We can stay on pace from drywall to the completion of your home and get you your home when we told you we were going to. So I know that that's big. The cost is certainly the biggest part. It is one of the most expensive portions of construction. Dirt and concrete are not cheap, and if you mess up, there can be very, very bad implications. So it is a very expensive portion of the process, potentially the most expensive. So it takes a great deal of care.
That's why when we talk about houses, either larger square footage, owner suite down, or ranch homes, they have bigger foundation footprints, right? And so that's why your price per square foot on those is maybe a little bit higher depending on how it's built, right? But definitely for the ranches and the owner suite downs that I've seen, you're going deeper, you're going wider, you're getting that bigger foundation and roof, and those are the two most expensive parts of your home. So very cool. You want to talk about environmental stuff? Are you good with that?
I can do that on like a community level.
Okay. So are there any environmental considerations or sustainability practices that you incorporate into the pre-foundation and foundation phase?
Yeah, so this is mostly done at a community site-wide level. Our biggest issue in all of construction is controlling water and where water takes sediment. So we are diligent in putting up silt fence, in putting up outlets to control where the water goes and what it takes with it. We don't want anything leaving our site that is not supposed to. So that's certainly the biggest thing in terms of environmental impact. We want to come and build a house, and we don't want anybody to know that we were there after we leave.
Right. Yeah, love it. So last question, what advice or tips would you give to homeowners who are planning to build a new home and want to understand this whole process better?
Really take the time to look at your lot. That's the biggest thing. Before anything's there, is it sloping from the road to the back of the lot? Is it sloping from the back to the front? This is going to determine how many stairs you have coming into your house, where your services are going to need to be located, the slope of your driveway. These are all things that you can see before I do anything to the lot, just based on the topography. It is a little bit different with crawl spaces and slabs, but either way, for the most part, the grade of the dirt is there. It's not set in stone. It's able to be shifted and maneuvered a little bit, but it's not going to drastically change from when you buy the house to when you close on it.
Right. I think my favorite example is a community we had in Durham, Huntington Valley, right? It's gorgeous, like really, really pretty. So North Durham is working its way up to a mountain. There's a mountain in North Durham. And you've got hills, right? Up and down as you're driving there. You're doing this, right? And then people come into the community and they love it because they're on different topography levels with everybody. So nobody's staring into anybody's home. You've got these gorgeous views. But then some agents would, mostly it was agents, I will give it to the homeowners that they didn't ask this question. So love you agents, but learn from this one. All right, well that was awesome, Walker. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I think that's all I have for today.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, and not every builder will come out here and talk to you. Not every foundation manager will come out here and talk to you. It's because we actually care, right?
Absolutely.
So thanks guys, thanks Walker, and we'll see you on the next one.
They would stop and they would ask, why didn't you just all dig all the dirt down and flatten it out? I know that seems like an obvious thing. Hi.
What's up?
Well, there's our guest.
What's up, man? What's up, man?
We're doing Facebook Live with 1,000 people on it, and you just got seen.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
You're famous now, man.
Bobby,
up?
you know Bobby
I
did
said
this
you're
in
famous.
the middle of, so somebody was filming a video behind the island. I wasn't in it. It was my agent and one of his people, and they were making a video in the Huntington Valley model, and then Bobby just comes straight in and goes to the frame. He's like, hey, what's up, guys? And then they point the camera out to him, and he was like,
Yeah,
and
I've
he
had Bobby.
included it in the video.
I've had Bobby crash a few of my client meetings before, and it like kind of threw me off for a second.
Yeah.
But
Poor
he's
Walker.
Still, you're not on.
It's not
right?
live. We're not.
Okay.
Sort of, but not really.
Sweet. What do you guys? So what is? Oh, you guys are recording. Gotcha. I thought it was on the laptop. I didn't even see that.
That's fantastic.
Jasmine, you can just cut the whole Huntington Valley thing out. Like, just let it go.
All right. Well, I'll let you guys get back to it. I just need some waters.
Okay, thanks, David. I don't even remember where we stopped.
I love David Newman.
I love David too. Okay.